Well, hey there, guys. Welcome back to the Depression Session podcast. It is me, your host, Weedman. And today I'm going to be talking about realizing when something just isn't for you and kind of when to shift gears and to focus on other things. I know that's kind of vague, but stay with me. Essentially, what I mean by that is it's one of those things that in life it seems like you really have to focus on what you're good at and to pour your time and effort into what you're good at versus what you want, but you're not that good at. You know what I mean? As an example, for me, that was pro gaming. When I was younger, I really, really wanted to be a pro gamer, and so I'd play and play and play and train and train and train and all of that. And I did get better, and I was continuing to make progress, but then I just kind of shifted into other things that were a little bit more promising, you know what I mean? A little bit better opportunities. And I said, I'll keep working on that as like a side project or like a fun project, you know what I mean? And just kind of shelf that for now. And I've held on to that for a couple years, and it is still something that I still am interested in. However, recently I've realized that that's just not for me. Like pro gaming just isn't in the cards for me just because I am just not good enough at these games to do that. And more so, I just don't have the time to dedicate to them to get to that level. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that if I spent all day, every day for 5 years or whatever playing one single game, that I could go pro. You know what I mean? It's like anything's possible, and I believe in myself enough, and I am egotistical enough to believe that if I put enough time and effort into it, that I could get pro. However, the amount of time that would take me from my current level just really is not feasible, and I would much rather focus my time on something that I already am better at, such as this channel or restaurant work or business or what have you. And it's kind of the same thing with skateboarding for me, because there was a long time I really, really wanted to be a pro skateboarder, but that's also not in the cards because I've been skating for about like 2 or 3 years now. And I still can't kickflip. So I think at this point it's fair. It's fair and probably the right move for me to say goodbye to that and to just move on and focus on other things. Now, don't take this wrong way. I'm not giving up on those things because they are still things that I enjoy doing, and they are still things that I get satisfaction out of doing and getting better at. But I'm realizing now that those two things are more than likely just not in the cards for me. And again, I'm sure that if I just dedicated everything I had to those things, that I could. However, it would be harder than if I dedicated my life to other things, because I feel like everyone has these things that they're just kind of inherently better at than other things. Some people are better at video games, some people are better at painting, some people are better at sports or writing or whatever. Everyone just has proficiencies that they're born with, and I think it's important to find what those are for you and focus on those, because that is the easiest and simplest path. Now, obviously, sometimes you have a proficiency for things that you just do not enjoy. For instance, for me, in high school, all my teachers said I wrote fantastic essays and that I was very, very good at it, and I put barely any work into any of them. And I thought they were all terrible. I just said, I gotta get this done, and I would write them in like an hour or two and just hand them in, and I would get high grades. So apparently writing is something that I am, or at least was, good at. However, I just never really enjoyed doing it. I don't like hate it or dislike it. I just never really found it enjoying or fulfilling. There have been some things that I've written that I like, but those are more like poem stuff, the more like artsy, creative stuff about writing. So even though that apparently I'm just proficient at writing, you know what I mean? It's just not something I want to do. And so I've put no time or effort into those because it's just not what I want to do. And I think it is kind of exasperated right now with where I am in my life. I'm 23. I'm trying to figure everything out. I'm trying to figure out what I'm good at and what I'm not good at and what I need to focus on and what I should focus on. And so I'm just looking at everything in my life and realizing, like, okay, I want to take these things into the next chapter of my life, and I want to leave these things behind. And so it is definitely exasperated, and that is probably why it's such a big feeling of, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be focusing on other things. So I know eventually I will probably like loosen up and chill out about it a little bit and focus on those things a little bit more as time goes on. But for right now, I'm really just trying to focus on the things that I just have a proficiency for. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to do those things. Skateboarding is something I'm still incredibly passionate about. And gaming is just fun. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's it's just a fun pastime. But that's really what it kind of is for me now. It's just a pastime that I do for like an hour every couple days, or I might hop on Discord with some friends like once or twice a week. You know what I mean? I've really toned down my gaming and just been focusing on other things like work and relationships and this channel and all of that. But I'm still going to keep doing those things. And I do still want to get better at those things. And I do still strive to be better at those things because everything I do in my life, I try to get better at. Every single day, I wake up and try to get better at something because eventually, if you do that enough times, you'll be good at something. And so even though I still do those things and I still am trying to get better at those things and I'm still working on those things, I realize now that it's just not really going to work out as like a career, at least not on the timeline that I want. And although, yes, that could be seen as making a sacrifice of things that I love, it's not, I don't really look at it that way because I'm not entirely stopping it. And yes, it does kind of suck to give up on a dream, no matter what that dream is. Sometimes in life, you have to do what's right and what's the best move and not exactly what you want to do. And that's something that I've really been trying to live by this past year to year and a half, is that I really try to do what the right thing to do is and what should be done and what's the best move rather than what I want to do. Because if I did what I wanted to do, I wouldn't do a whole lot if I'm being honest. I would just play games and skateboard and smoke and just eat a bunch of food and just not be that like contributing to society or not contribute to society that much. I also wouldn't be like that good of a person, you know what I mean? And I mean that in the sense of like, I wouldn't be like responsible or like disciplined or clean or what have you. I would be lazy, essentially. If I did what I wanted to do, I'd be lazy. That's I think that's what I'm trying to word here is if I did what I wanted to do, I'd be lazy. And I feel like in all fairness, I think everyone's like that to a certain extent. I think humans just like by nature or naturally just want to be comfortable and want to be relaxed and don't really want to do things or be stressed. You know what I mean? Because I don't think anyone wants to be stressed. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, there's some people that have that, like, that gene or whatever it is that stress feels good to them. Even though I do believe that is kind of a learned trait, there are some people that just naturally are better at handling stress than others. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely one of those people. I've definitely got a hell of a lot better about it. Like this past year and a half, my stress tolerance and my ability to handle stress and push through stress has increased pretty dramatically. I'm not like perfect about it, obviously. There are some times when I can really get stressed or even just stress myself out and I'm like, I just need to take tonight and just rest and relax, which obviously isn't a bad thing because it is good to relax and to do things just because they're fun and that you enjoy things. That's why basically like every Sunday, I look at Sundays as my rest days. So on Sunday, I really only do things that I want to do, or at least beyond the things that I am required to do that day. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, some days I'll like, I'll clean or I'll get the mail or do some yard work or something like that. Like there's still stuff that I am required to do on those days. And I do those things, obviously. But once I get my base level of stuff done for the day, the things that I like need to get done, I don't really push myself too much on those days, just because I take those days to just relax and recuperate and recover and think. I do a lot of my best, like thinking and planning on Sundays because I'm not doing something, you know what I mean? I'm able just to kind of just sit there and chill and just clear my mind of everything. And then I can come up with ideas and plan things and ideas and all of that. And that's something that once I started doing that has really helped me a lot because there was a while I was just going and going and going constantly every day of the week. And even though, like, yes, I was more productive technically, I found that one day a week isn't going to kill me. You know what I mean? 4 days out of the month isn't going to kill me. Hell, 52 days out of the year, just resting and relaxing isn't going to hurt me. And if anything, it boosted my productivity because when I would come back on Monday, I'd be refreshed and refined and ready to go and I'd have more energy. So a little bit tangent aside, recently I've just realized that pro gaming and professional skateboarding just probably aren't really in the cards for me anymore, at least, or at the very least, they're not going to be something that I choose to focus on heavily in terms of a career. And so if I was to depart you guys with anything during this podcast, it would be to find what you're proficient at and what naturally comes easy to you and that you're naturally good at and that also you enjoy, and focus on those, because once you start focusing on those, growth will come significantly faster and significantly easier. So if you're doing something that you really, really enjoy, but it's just not working out, sometimes you just kind of got to realize it might not be for you and move on to the next thing. And I know, and I don't really consider that a failure. I don't, because to me, as long as you learn something when you do something new, it's not really a failure. You know what I mean? And it's this whole principle of like falling upwards. I forget exactly which book I read this in, but falling upwards is essentially when you take a failure and you apply what you learned to the next thing you do. And so it's like, yeah, you might fail and you might fall down, but as long as you fall forward or fall upward and learn something and use that knowledge into your next thing, eventually something will work out. And every single failure I've ever had in my life, I've always learned something from it that I was able to do on the next project or the next thing or even just the next attempt of that thing. And it went a lot smoother the next time. So even though it sucks sometimes you do kind of got to realize some things just aren't in the cards for you and you got to move on to something else. Again, kind of basic, I know, but that's something that I've learned and something that I just kind of wanted to share with you guys. So I think with that, this will go ahead and wrap up this episode of the Depression Session podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed and I hope you guys learned something. Comment down below what you guys think. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. We release a video 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Podcasts are every 2 weeks. And then beyond that, the other videos just kind of whatever we come up with. It's been a lot of gaming recently, but we are trying to move on to more like IRL stuff, some more interesting stuff. We have some stuff in the works right now that I think would be very fun and very fun both for us and for you guys to watch. So subscribe to keep up with that. And remember that just like this podcast, depression is just a session and a too soon shall pass. We'll go ahead and see you guys back here. Yeah, I'm still used to the old outro we were doing this weekly. Subscribe and come back Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 for another video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Goodbye.